basketball, recapping these last couple of games here over the last few weeks and looking ahead to a big week for the Citadel this week and a battle for the Low Country with Charleston Southern coming up on Wednesday, and then the big game Saturday at home against the College of Charleston. We'll break it all down over the next hour. Coach is with us, of course. Coach, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good to be here, and appreciate you.
Yeah, good to be back out here for another edition here of the Coaches Show, which we'll do periodically throughout the basketball season. And it was a busy last couple of weeks. The team was on the road for those 5 games in a row, so we'll talk about that. We'll preview the upcoming week. If you're in person with us tonight, you can submit a question for Coach. We'll get to those questions a little bit later on, so more of a reason to come out and join us in person here at the Coaches Show each week. And if you come out and you wear your Citadel gear, you also get a discount as well here at the Sportsbook of Charleston. So do that moving forward. Come out and join us in person each time we're out here. Our next Coaches Show will be in a couple of weeks, but good to be back out here tonight. Coach, let's talk about these last couple of weeks. Since the last time we were here talking Citadel basketball, because you guys had that long extended road trip, we'll go game by game, but first let me just ask overall about that tournament in New Orleans. We talked about it in advance. I know it was important for the guys and for you to get out on the road in a tournament like that, for you to return to New Orleans. All in all, now that you look back, did you think it was a successful visit there to New Orleans for the past week?
Well, very pleased with our guys and their efforts. We were gone a long time. It was, I think, a 9-day road trip, and obviously really challenged ourselves by going on the road to Butler first and then going for 3 games in 3 days in New Orleans. And I knew we would face different styles of play, all kinds of different types of players. We'd face some adversity. We'd travel 4 straight games on the road. But I wanted to see how our guys would respond, and was very pleased with, I thought we kept getting better and better as the trip went on. And so I think our guys really took advantage of the opportunity that was in front of them.
And of course, as we had talked previously, a good opportunity to bond. I know you were able to show them certain parts of New Orleans. So even just away from the basketball court, because we'll talk about the X's and O's in the games, but just even away from the basketball court on more of a personal level, I'm sure it was an enjoyable week as well for everybody.
Yeah, it was great. First, we get to go to historic Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. One of the kind of legendary venues in college basketball, and test ourselves there against Butler. And then we get to go down to New Orleans for the week and really spend some time together. We got out, we saw Pelicans Golden State Warriors game. We got them to the World War II Museum, which I think is a fantastic attraction, and our guys really enjoyed it. I got 2 phone calls back at the hotel if we could spend more time there. So I know our guys really had a great time there, and it was really educational. And then we got to experience a couple of friends of mine who are chefs and own restaurants in New Orleans. We were able to go to their places, and so really get a feel for the city and the vibe of the restaurant scene there. And then obviously prepare for those and play those 3 games in 3 days. So just a tremendous trip for our guys, and one that I know they'll always remember. And young man here with us tonight, Elijah Morgan, I know he really enjoyed his homecoming.
Yeah, absolutely so, and he played really well in that tournament. Since you mentioned the restaurants, the food, admittedly, I wasn't at a ton of the team meals. I was out exploring the local flavor in New Orleans. For you, as somebody who spent years there, you returned last week on a personal level. What food item, is there something about New Orleans that you missed all these years that you were looking forward to being able to have getting back to New Orleans last week?
Well, it seems like everybody there puts their own spin on certain dishes, whether it's the gumbo. I think I had that at every meal, and then just some other different dishes like that. But it's always a lot of fun, and the people there were tremendous to me during my time, and our families at Tulane. And so to go back and see them, and I can't tell you how many showed up at the games just to say hello and things like that. So it was really I felt very blessed during the trip, because people still reaching out in the way they cared about it and followed our team.
Let's talk about the actual basketball. You mentioned the Butler game. We'll get to all the games in New Orleans as well, but if you think far enough back, the trip did begin, like you said, at Butler the last Saturday on the 19th. Obviously the final score, 89-42, not ideal, but I think every game is an opportunity to be a learning experience. Your team dealt with some adversity that night against Butler with the difficulties of going up against a team like that on the road. They did respond well once you got to New Orleans, but all in all, what did you learn from your team as they went through, to this point, the toughest test or toughest game in terms of the final score? What did you learn about your team that night in Butler?
Well, I had some concerns. We're still trying to find ourselves really on both ends of the floor and on our rotation. We were down a little bit on our rotation that night. David Maynard was not able to make the trip. And, I was concerned about some aspects defensively. I thought against Clemson, we just kind of hung in there offensively, but we made some mistakes and had some breakdowns defensively. I was encouraged as we went through the Presbyterian game how we really came together in the second half, and I saw that potential to lock down defensively like we need to, but I wanted to see us be consistent. And then we come out against Butler, and they really blitzed us from the three-point line, a team that Butler has struggled shooting the ball this year. Our guys were a little bit maybe too tentative on their closeouts, and boy, they really made us pay. And once they got some confidence, I think our guys saw that you go on the road, if you want to win road games, you got to start setting the tone early in the game. You can't let people get confident. And once Butler made those first two threes, they were a runaway freight train, and it was hard to get them under control the rest of the night. So valuable lesson learned for our guys. And I thought we took that, though, and we went down to New Orleans, and I thought we just kept getting better defensively as that tournament went on.
Yeah, it leads me to my next question. The team did bounce back well because the next game was, again, on the road. You had to travel. You go to New Orleans. You take on the host team in their arena. It wasn't a neutral site team. You're playing New Orleans in their building, and you got a nice win, 72-65. So it must have been nice to see your team able to leave that Butler game in Indiana, move forward, and bounce back with that performance against New Orleans.
Well, first of all, I have a lot of respect for UNO's program. I was part of that rivalry when I was at Tulane. We found success against them when I was at Tulane, but when I took over the job, I think we were down 4 in that series, and we were able to leave it in a good spot when I left. But I have great respect for Coach Schlesinger and the job he does there, and what he always does year in year out with his team. They're a tough team to play. They're physical. They're really aggressive. They come after you. But make no mistake about it, when you're in a 4-team exempt event and the host team decides to play you in the first round, you know kind of where people think you stand. Mm-hmm. And so I was glad to see our guys take on that challenge, and that was a really good, true road game. Like it was a multiple team event. However, we're playing the host team. It was a road game, and really proud of our guys how we controlled that game.
And then the next day, as we go game by game here, looking back and recapping that trip to New Orleans for the Citadel, you take on the University of Denver the very next day. University of Denver is a good team. They're off to their best start since 2015. I believe they're now 6-1 after they swept the week in New Orleans. 6-1, maybe 7-1 at this point. You fall a little bit short in that game, 74-71. We talked about it on the air after that game and the next day and everything, but came down to the final possession against a good team. You had a chance there in that final possession to get the tying basket. So, again, like I said earlier, I know every game's a bit of a learning experience, and that was one where, for the first time this season, you had that one possession game coming down to the very end, and a chance for your team to try to find a way to win a close game. And unfortunately, you did come up a little bit short. But what did you think about that game with Denver?
No question, that was a great game for us. They are playing very well. They did a great job in the transfer portal, and they have a very much improved basketball team this year. Second-year program for the coach there, and it shows. But we had a 2-point lead with 2 minutes to go. We didn't convert it to free throw line, and then we had a costly turnover in our next couple of possessions. And so we need to learn how to take that 2-point lead and try to finish that basketball game. At the same time, I think what's encouraging for our team is that we're getting great, valuable information. That's why I wanted to play the schedule that we're playing. We're playing arguably the toughest schedule in the history of the Citadel as far as the most Division I games ever. In fact, I think if we can get fortunate enough to get a win Wednesday night, we have 4 Division I wins in November. Somebody told me that was the most since the 70s. So we have a chance. Playing. I wanted accurate information and accurate feedback, and what our guys are going to need to do well in conference play. And you're starting to see a little bit of a formula. We have to do a better job on the backboard and rebound the basketball. When we don't, it tends to leads to foul trouble. And Denver was able to consistently find points by getting to the free throw line because they were out rebounding us. So we need to shore that up. Great information from that game, and then we came out, the next game against IUP, Ryan. I thought it was, even though that's a team that's struggling, they're improved as well, and they got their leading scorer back the game before, and he had 30 points, and they scored 84, I believe, against UNO. Yep. So no slouch, but I thought we came out with just terrific intensity.
Yeah, I'll ask you about that game in just a moment, but as a bit of a follow-up to Denver, people always say, it's a bit of a cliche, but when teams are when they're trying to come together, people always say, they're trying to find a way to win, or they're trying to learn how to win those close games. As a coach, and you've been doing it a long time, can you pinpoint some of those things that go into that when you talk about a team that's able to find ways to win? What factors go into the ability to find ways to win close games?
Well, I think you have to know who you are and what your identity is, and I think first and foremost, you get a timeout or you get a chance to call a play where do you want that ball to go, and who do you want them to get it? And where are they most effective, and who is that player? And sometimes it changes based on matchups or based on how the other team is playing. So it's not always your best player, but where do you want to go with that basketball? And everybody needs to be on board with and on the same page of that. And then, what do you need to do? What type of lineups you need out there, whether it's shoot free throws or break a press or get that one key to defensive stop. And that's where sometimes you see coaches making multiple substitutions because you're trying to just get one possession down the road. You say hopefully you still have some timeouts left. There's going to be some stoppages of the clock. And that was really it. I thought it was so evident in the Denver game. Okay, we weren't successful tonight, but it was pretty clear what we need to do. And I thought our guys had confidence in it. We just didn't quite get it done.
You bounce back the next day, IUPUI playing for the third straight day. You're coming off that close loss against Denver, and man, that first half, I don't know, I said it on air at the time, I don't know if I remember a first half between two Division I teams that was so dominant as was the case on Friday. You're up 41-11 at the half. You close out the first half on a 41-6 run. So, man, to see your team respond the next day to put together those 20 minutes, that must have been nice to see as well.
Well, part of it was our theme all week. I wanted to see what we would be like on day 3. I didn't necessarily care about the opponent or anything like that, but what will we be like on day 3? Because I wanted our guys to learn, how grueling it is to play 3 games in 3 days, how you have to prepare mentally and physically. Guys like Austin Ash, who's also here tonight, and Stephen Clark, they played major minutes. So how do you get your body ready for that next game? How do you fight through maybe not having quite your freshest body, to compete that night? So I was thrilled with how our guys came out, and really they threw the first and second punch and third punch, if you will. Like, we just kept going. We played so hard that first half. I knew there'd be a little bit of a letdown in the second half, but I wasn't too concerned about that. I was just really proud of how our guys got themselves ready for that game and just attacked the moment.
Yeah, you mentioned the minutes, third straight day. As you said, leading into that tournament, the idea is to prepare for the Southern Conference tournament in March, being able to handle the situation where you have to play day after day after day. So as you look back on your team, you must have been pleased with how they were able to handle that, especially early in the season when maybe they don't have the mid-season form or the legs completely under them yet, but to be able to get through those 3 days and play that well must have been promising.
Well, hopefully we keep improving and put ourselves in position where we can draw upon that experience, when we're sitting up in Asheville getting ready for that third game. But certainly all you can judge people on is how they pass the test in front of them, and our guys responded in the way I wanted them to, and again, very, very pleased with the effort, and we saw how when we really defend, like we did the second half of Presbyterian, or like we did in the first half against IUPUI, or even how we did down the stretch at times against UNO, we can really take someone's will away, and we need to have that mentality.
The 11 points allowed in the first half against IUPUI, fourth fewest. Now, the records date back to 1969, so over the past 50-plus years, we can say that's the fourth fewest points allowed in a first half by Citadel basketball. The record, 9 against the College of Charleston in 2008, tied with 1972. UPenn scored only 9 in the first half. Third on the list, College of Charleston, 2007, 10 points in the first half, and then IUPUI on Friday. So, point being, 3 of the top 4, actually under your watch, Coach, and 6 of the top 8 lowest scoring first halves have been during your time as the head coach with the Citadel. When I mentioned those other games, College of Charleston 2008, 9 points allowed in the first half. College of Charleston 2007, 10 points allowed in the first half. Let me test your memory. What do you remember? Do you remember those games when you had those good first halves?
Well, I remember, I think you asked me after the game,
Yeah.
do I remember? And there's been some really memorable performances, and we've had them at each step of the way. When I was the head coach at Francis Marion, we had a top 20 Winston-Salem State team that came in, and we held them, I believe, to 7. We had at Tulane, we had a Cincinnati team that was an NCAA tournament type team, and we held them, I believe it was 11.5. So all along the way, like, I don't know if there's anything that makes me more proud to see guys. In order to do that, you have to play really hard, and you have to play really well together. Defense is a team effort, and because guys are going to make mistakes, and there has to be someone to pick them up and have their back, and it has to be multiple efforts. And so whenever you put together a half like that, it's not just poor shooting on the other team. You've had an effect on what they're doing. And like I said, for IUPUI, young man had 30 points the night before. They were all fired up because they had their leading scorer back. They were all excited. They had scored 80 plus the night before. For our team to come out there and take their will away, I just love watching guys compete and play that hard. And I've told you this before. My best vision in McAllister Fieldhouse is I love to see 5 guys in a defensive stance down there, and right behind them is the football and baseball team and the other members of the Corps cadets, really urging them on and gritting out a tough second half stop. And it's one of my favorite things to watch.
Bulldogs coming back from New Orleans where they went 2-1, and now 4-3 on the year. Big week coming up. It's the Charleston Southern game Wednesday night at their place, and then Saturday, home game against the College of Charleston. Circle that one on the calendar. Get your tickets while you can and come out and join us this Saturday at the McAllister Fieldhouse, a 1 p.m. tip-off for the Citadel and the College of Charleston. So a bit of a rivalry week here in the Lowcountry, which should be a lot of fun. We'll talk about those matchups coming up. We'll continue to break down the start to the Citadel season as they've won 4 of their first 7 games, and a whole lot more as we're with Coach Conway here this evening. You can submit your questions if you're with us in person. We'll get to those questions coming up in a little bit. Best question usually gets a prize as well, and we do that each time we're here at the Sportsbook of Charleston in North Charleston for the Coaches Show. Coaches Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. We'll come back with more here in North Charleston after this here all across the Citadel Sports Network. Show here in North Charleston, the Sportsbook of Charleston, the Coach's Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits, and we're talking Citadel basketball tonight. We're giving Coach Conroy a bit of a break here for a moment. We'll bring him back to get to the questions later on, but a couple of Bulldogs are with us this evening that we'll get to talk with, starting with Austin Ash, who is a first-year member of the Bulldogs, but certainly not first-year playing college basketball, and Austin's leading the team in scoring so far, 7 games into the season. First off, let's dive right in and get to know you a little bit. You're from Iowa. You played at Iowa. Now you're here at the Citadel here for this season. First, let's go back to your time at Iowa before we talk about the Bulldogs and your time in the Low Country. But overall, how'd you like your time playing at Iowa?
It was great. Coach McCaffrey had a good relationship with me going in there and offered me a walk-on spot going into my senior year of high school. So I jumped on that and had a great 5 years there. Made great relationships with best friends I'll have for life, guys like Luka Garza, Keegan Murray. Some pros there, and we made some great runs. And then my last year, we had that Big Ten championship tournament run at the end, so that was awesome. And it was besides my freshman year when I redshirted, every team was NCAA tournament team, so that streak's still going. So really proud of bringing that back, and it was really great. A lot of great memories there, but it was awesome. It was a good time.
Yeah, I can imagine so. And it's nice to have that as part of now the Citadel team, to bring in somebody with that experience of going to the NCAA tournament, of playing at a program like that. What brought you to the Citadel and joining this team once Coach Conroy came aboard?
Yeah, for me, like you said, I've already had that experience playing the NCAA tournament, being a part of a high major program. Never got to play those crucial minutes down the stretch of a game. So it was really finding that place, that the opportunity was there, to be a guy that can score the ball late in the game and play heavy minutes like I've been doing so far. So, I talked to Coach Conroy. My mom and I took a visit down here, and the opportunity was there at the guard spot and stuff like that. And I really thought I had a good relationship with Coach from the jump. So it was just a really great fit, and kind of hopped on it. It's worked out well so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you told me just before we came on air that you actually had come to play at the Citadel years ago.
Oh, no, Iowa did before I came
Iowa did. Okay, so you didn't. So then, in that case, tell me about when you first came down here. What was your first experience like when you knew not only the opportunity from a basketball perspective to fit in at that guard position, but also what was your experience just on a personal level of, this is the place, Charleston, the Citadel. This is it for me.
Yeah. So I never lived outside of Iowa ever. So and hearing Citadel was a military school, I really didn't know what to expect, but I fell in love with the campus right away. It was really cool, and then Charleston is just, the weather's always nice. There's always people. There's always stuff going on. You got the beach, 15 minutes either way. So really, having that and seeing my family sending me pictures of snow, and it's 70 degrees and sunny down here, so you really can't beat that. So it's a nice change up for me, and to get out of the Midwest a little bit and really enjoy this year.
You don't miss the snow?
A little bit. It doesn't really feel like Christmas right now.
No, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. That was the biggest adjustment for me, going to a sports bar on a Sunday to watch the NFL and walking out and it's 80 degrees. Doesn't feel like football season. Nonetheless, talking about Austin Ash, you're a member of the Bulldogs. Okay, let's talk about the actual basketball season, the start to the year. 7 games in, teams 4-3. You're playing well, leading the team in scoring. Just early on, what have been your impressions? Because just like yourself, there's a lot of guys from different programs that have all come together to build this team, and you guys kind of hit the ground running. You played well in that very first game with Clemson, seemed to be a well-oiled machine. So just your impressions of this team so far, 7 games in, you guys seem to be a pretty close-knit group, and you're playing well despite, a lot of different pieces having to come together in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I feel like we've made growth in every game. We started off with that Clemson game, and we were right there. And we had that Presbyterian game after that. We made some more strides, especially on the defensive end, and then we had a little hiccup at Butler, and then made some adjustments there. And I feel like it's kind of what we've done every game is we've come more together as a group. And what better way to come together than a 9-day road trip where you're in the hotel with the guys every day, and you keep developing those relationships on the court and off the court. But yeah, I feel like that's one thing we've kept doing is just keep improving. I think that's what we'll continue to do the rest of the year.
Overall, what was your favorite part about the trip to New Orleans?
Maybe just seeing Elijah Morgan go off in his home city.
Yeah, he played well in front of the home crowd. We'll talk to him coming up. You're back in the Low Country now this week, and we get Charleston Southern this week, College of Charleston. So your first year with the Citadel, but I'm sure you know the importance of these crosstown matchups, these rivalries, and for a player getting ready to play in these games, I'm sure you're looking forward to this week because anytime, no matter where you're playing, when you get to go up against your rival, that's a pretty fun experience. So I'm sure this is an exciting week for you and the team to get ready for these games.
Yeah, no, we're super excited. Apparently, so I heard the crosstown games haven't been going on, and then Coach Conway got them back this year. And, I've been a part of those in Iowa. Iowa State, it's a huge deal. Everybody's watching, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to play in 2 games that'll be, a hostile environment. Even a game at home, they're going to have a lot of people here, considering it's a mile away. But 2 great teams that are both playing really well, and it's a great opportunity for us to get better and finish the non-conference out strong.
When I was getting ready for the basketball season, I was still fully consumed with football. Didn't really make it to any practices, but I was told the one warning I was given was, watch out for that Iowa kid. He'll shoot it from anywhere on the floor. And I've seen that clearly these first couple of games, that you'll let it fly and knock down those shots from anywhere on the floor. What goes into that to have that shooting range, and then also just the ability to get your shot off quickly and just, from anywhere on the floor, you feel comfortable knocking it down from beyond the arc?
Yeah, over my years at Iowa and just playing against those stars all the time, I realized I had to expand my range in order to get that shot off. And then, coming here, it's all about repetitions, and, Coach Conroy puts a lot of confidence into me to make those shots and take those shots. So, I try to find those space, and my teammates, like Elijah Morgan, Madison, Steven, they do a great job of getting me the ball in those spots in order to make those shots, and
What have you appreciated most about this team so far? 7 games in, so again, you guys are all still coming together. It's early on the year, haven't even gotten close to conference season, but 7 games in as you play for a new coach now after those years at Iowa, as you play with new guys. What have you appreciated most just about this Bulldog team so far early this season?
Yeah, it's a really selfless group. You got guys that maybe aren't, putting up the numbers they want to get, but they come in after a big win against Presbyterian, and, they might not have had the role that they wanted to do, and they're the first ones, celebrating and dancing to the music in the locker room after a win like that. And whenever you have a team like that, it makes it easy to play hard. When everybody, the guy to your left and the guy to the right is going to give it their all. So that just makes it really fun, and I think that's what makes this a fun team to watch.
We'll let you go on this and transition to your teammate coming up here next segment, but Charleston Southern this week, College of Charleston, without tipping the hand, without revealing anything, what do you guys need to do to be successful this week against these 2 teams? I know we still have a couple of days till Charleston Southern. Don't want to look ahead yet. We take it one opponent at a time, but just in general, what do you want to see from the team this week to make sure you guys do have a successful week?
Yeah, anytime you have a rivalry game in any sport, you gotta do the little things. I think, getting like 50-50 balls are going to be huge, and getting 3 stops in a row are going to be big for us to get our transition offense going, and really taking care of the glass. That's been a big focal point for us is rebounding and taking care of the basketball. So if we can do all those things, I think we'll be tough to beat, and hopefully we get 2 wins.
Absolutely. All right, last thing. When you do have a day off, we're now in the season, so I know you guys are a lot busier, but when you first came to Charleston, and you guys are always busy as athletes, nonetheless, when you have some downtime, have you found, what's a favorite thing you have to do around here? Have you found a favorite restaurant? Do you like to go to the beach? What do you do when you have downtime in Charleston?
For me, this may be one of the reasons I came out here is definitely golf. I love to golf, so, a lot of my friends that play back at home, they've already hung their clubs up for the year, but out here, I could have went and played today if I had the time, so, I love to play golf.
That's good. By the time you get back, you'll be good to go.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
Yeah. Absolutely. Austin Ash, originally from Iowa, came here after playing at Iowa, leading the Bulldogs in scoring this year as the Citadel gets ready to take on Charleston Southern, and then College of Charleston as well these next 2 games, and appreciate the time from Austin. We'll come back, catch up with another member of the Bulldog, and again, if you're in person, submit questions. We'll get to those coming up as well to end the night with Coach Conroy as well. It's the Coach's Show hanging out here in North Charleston, the Sportsbook of Charleston. The Coach's Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. We're back after this here all across the Citadel Sports Network. back on the Coaches Show here at the Sportsbook of Charleston in North Charleston. The Coaches Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. And we're out here talking Citadel basketball. If you come out in person, you can submit a question for Coach Conroy. We'll get to those questions coming up. But after catching up at Austin Ash, we're now joined by Elijah Morgan, another member of the Bulldogs team who returned home last week to New Orleans, helped the Bulldogs get a couple of wins, and scored a season-high 22 in that final game against IUPUI. Elijah, let's jump right in. It must have been nice for you to be able to get back home and, of course, play well as well. The team gets a couple of wins, but for you on a personal level, to have that opportunity to go back to New Orleans must have been a real thrill for you.
Definitely was. Seeing the schedule when I first committed and saw that, we were playing at home in New Orleans, that was, it was great. It was just a crazy coincidence. I haven't played generally in the South, really, with being at Notre Dame. I think the closest thing was Georgia Tech. But being able to go home, play in front of my extended family, who haven't really seen me since high school, because it's just tough getting home, during the college basketball season. Yep. So being able to play at home, that was definitely great. And I love seeing my family, my grandparents, aunts, uncles. Everybody came out, so it was really nice.
I was in minor league baseball. There was a player in particular, I won't name him, he's in the big leagues now, but he always struggled whenever we went back to his hometown and he'd play in front of his family, his friends, his high school friends would come out, and the manager would always say he's pressing, he's trying too hard to impress his friends and family. So my point being, for certain athletes, it could go one of two ways. You could either press and maybe not play as well in front of your family, or it could maybe inspire you even more, which seems to be the case with you, because you played really well last week in New Orleans. You had the 15 points against Denver. You come back 22 against IUPUI. So in your case, it seemed like it was quite the thrill. It was the extra boost for you to be able to play as well as you did in front of your family.
Definitely. The gym is pretty much empty besides most of our fans and the other teams staying the scout and stuff. So I could just hear I had a pretty big family section back there. So that definitely just boosted the energy I already had for the game. Every game is an opportunity to go play, so I try to cherish them as much as I can. So having my family there, that was, as you said, like a little extra boost. So.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's a real thrill. Growing up playing sports, my mother would be a real nervous fan, but wasn't all that vocal. What about you? Could you actually hear like your mother while you're out there on the court? Is she one that's yelling out there all the time?
My mom is definitely a yeller. She's definitely a screamer. She has a very distinct call when she cheers, so I know she cheers. My dad, on the other hand, he's just real quiet. I could feel him looking at me. He's, the one who taught me the game and stuff. So definitely hear my mom cheering more on the lighthearted side, but my dad is definitely the stickler, knows the game and stuff. So I like to not know where he sits during the games.
We'll talk about the actual basketball, the X's and O's and everything. But again, with you being able to return back to New Orleans was a great story for you and for the team last week. As you said, you get some home-cooked meals. You get to go back and have some of the food of New Orleans that I'm sure you're used to, growing up and eating. What's the one thing that you were looking forward to from a food? I could tell you, for me, growing up in Connecticut, there's a certain pizza place that every time I go home, they have the best pizza I've ever had. I've lived in a bunch of different states. I've traveled. Can't top this one pizza place. Whenever I go home, I got to have pizza from there. For you go back to New Orleans last week. What was the thing that you had to make sure you had because it's been too long?
Gumbo. Got to be gumbo. That's the New Orleans dish. My mom does it the best, in my opinion. So just being able to get that kind of home-cooked meal was something that, Austin from the Midwest, he doesn't like seafood, but, that's what I grew up on. That's my favorite food. So being able to eat seafood, being able to eat gumbo when I went home, that was definitely my favorite meal.
Yeah, the food was fantastic. Hey, maybe that helped propel you as well last week in those games. The win against New Orleans, the win against IUPUI, you on a personal level, 15 against Denver, 22 points the next day against IUPUI. What was it like for you and the guys to navigate, because we talked about this a lot with Coach, of playing those 3 games in 3 days to prepare for hopefully a nice run in March come conference tournament time, as we're early in the season and maybe, still getting your legs underneath you? What was it like for you in particular to go through that challenge of 3 games in 3 days?
For me, it was really just about getting my legs under me. I was coming off the bench for a little while. I was hurt before, so getting my legs under me has definitely been the biggest thing. Getting into shape, getting into game shape has definitely been the biggest thing for me. So being able to play 3 games in 3 days, work my legs, being able to recover, and just, because we are striving for March to be able to do that same thing. We're striving for, SoCon tournament to be able to go play in that 3rd day. So just really mental reps as well as physical reps to, know what my body needs as far as recovery-wise, know how to pace myself and stuff like that. It was definitely, I used it obviously, you know, I'm in game, so I'm going all out. But I also used it to kind of see where I'm at as far as my body and stuff. So it was definitely a good. I got a lot out of it mentally for myself.
You mentioned game shape. I think anyone who's played basketball knows there's a difference between being in like good shape or running shape and then game shape. You could run 8 miles all you want, but when you go out there and you're actually cutting on the floor and playing the game, that's a whole other thing. And for you, that actually has gone through as a college athlete. I'm sure you don't have that to start the season, right? It takes a little while to fully get into that mid-season game shape for you.
Oh yeah, a lot of people say it takes 5 or 6 games to really get into game shape. It's hard to replicate that adrenaline that rushes through when you're in game, and that first 4, getting to that first media timeout is always it's a blessing for everybody, just because your legs you're winded, you're short breath, your legs are heavy. So getting to that first 4 and then kind of being able to hit that plateau the rest of the game is something that took me a little while to get into, but now I definitely feel like I'm there. I'm watching what I'm eating, trying to nutrition-wise make sure I'm on everything, and then just just getting my legs under me and being able to play, contribute as much as I can to the team at 100%.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about your journey. You're from New Orleans. You wind up first at Notre Dame before coming here to the Citadel. So let me ask you about that. What was it about Notre Dame? I mean, that seems like an easy answer. There's so many things to say about why you would choose to go to Notre Dame. But for you in particular, what was it that drew you to go to Notre Dame?
It was actually this leadership scholarship I got. Notre Dame was, to me, it was a reach of a school personally. Not really for academic reasons, just for economic reasons. Really, it's a very expensive school to go to keep it 100. But I was able to get a scholarship that my guidance counselor told me about at Notre Dame. So I went through a bunch of interviews, wrote a research paper. There was I think it started off with like 300 kids, and they had to pick 10. So it was a very stressful process. But I ended up being one of the 10, so I was able to get to Notre Dame, have a little financial aid with it, so that definitely helped. So I ended up there. Just looking back, that was just a huge blessing for me to be able to go to such a prestigious school like that and get a great education. So yeah, that's how I ended up there. I would have never thought I'd go there if you asked me where I would be going to college when I was little, but it was. I had a great time. Definitely had a great time.
You're from, you come up in New Orleans, you go to South Bend. I've been up there before. There's not a whole lot around. I mean, the actual college, I'm sure, was a fun experience, but what was it like to be living there, to go from, New Orleans and everything about Louisiana to then be kind of in the middle of nowhere at South Bend?
Definitely a culture shock for me, definitely, to say the least. I got up there, I probably brought 2 sweatshirts, a couple sweatpants, didn't know how cold it really got. Didn't have a big jacket. When I came home for Thanksgiving, I told my mom I needed a big jacket because it was getting cold in like September, October. So the weather was probably the biggest adjustment for me. But just moving up there to the Midwest, not familiar at all with the Midwest. It was a culture shock at first. It took me some time to adjust. I'll definitely say that.
Then you come here to the Citadel in Charleston. Coach Conroy has said he's known you and your family for quite some time. What was it about this opportunity that led you here to come now play with the Citadel this year?
Coach Conroy, as soon as I put my name in the portal, he just kept it very, very honest with me about what it was looking like here. He's putting together a new team, so got some guys that transferred, got some guys that stayed. And so it was just an opportunity for me to just come in and show that I can play at this level and, compete and play on a team and contribute. And that was the main thing I was looking for. I didn't care if I started. I didn't care if I came off the bench. I just wanted to show that, I can contribute at this level. And he was able to give me that opportunity. I came and visited. He, showed me a great time when I was here. Got to meet some of the guys when I was here too. So, a great bunch of people that came back. So it felt at home. Charleston reminds me a lot of New Orleans, just in the city, kind of downtown area. So it felt like a second home. So it was an easy transition for me.
How have things gone so far? I mean, we talked about being able to go back to New Orleans last week. That's obviously nice. We're 7 games into the season. You're playing well. The team's doing well. So overall, what are your first impressions of the start of the season here with your new team and new program with the Citadel?
I think it's tough for a group of 5 transfers to come together with a group of new freshmen and then a group of people that have already established themselves as in the Citadel basketball community who came back. So that's a lot of pieces you got to come together and gel. And I think I also wasn't there over the summer, which was a big part. I kind of had to play catch up when I got here in the fall. But I think from where we've had, what we have coming together, I think we've really done a great job of gelling. We do, out of practice activities. A lot of guys hang around in the locker room, the team room, so it's been a great chance for us to gel off the court as well. But I mean, on the court, Coach Conroy, he set a precedent, a standard for how we're supposed to practice, and it's really helped us because there are other teams that don't. I know there are other teams that don't practice as hard as we do, and it shows on the court. And I think we've had a great start to the season. There are a couple games we want back, definitely. A couple games that if we would have done one thing or another, we could have won that game. But we're still building, we're still getting better, and we have 2 great opportunities this week to show the city of Charleston that Citadel basketball is back. So I'm definitely looking forward to the opportunities.
That takes me to my final question. We'll let you get out of here on this one as we talk with Elijah Morgan. As you said, Charleston Southern this week, College of Charleston. It's this crosstown rivalry here, and like you said, a chance to show maybe which school, which program is the top dog of the Low Country. So even though this is only your first year with the Citadel, you know what rivalries are like and the importance of these crosstown matchups. I'm sure that adds a little something extra to you guys as you get ready this week to, like you just said, go out there and show that, hey, pay attention to the Citadel. We're the program to watch here in Charleston.
Definitely. I mean, Charleston's a great city. We got College of Charleston downtown, and oftentimes I feel like the Citadel is like the little brother to the College of Charleston. People don't respect us as much, and maybe they've had a couple down years, but I think people are not really expecting what we have. I think that we're coming in as an unexpected team. We have a lot of pieces that people don't know about, and I think that's been able to, we put that on display with games like Clemson where we're hanging around with them. A game that, honestly, I feel like we could have won, where you go to New Orleans, get 2 out of the 3 wins, could have had the 3rd win. So it's just a chance for us to go in. I have the utmost confidence in, all of the players on my team that we can go out there and pull out 2 wins, and I'm just excited to get that opportunity.
Absolutely. Should be fun this week. That's Elijah Morgan joining us, a member of the Bulldogs. We'll come back, wrap things up with the head coach of the Citadel, Coach Conroy, will join us once again. We'll get to those submitted questions, and we'll look ahead to the big games this week for the Citadel against a couple of in-town rivals as well. We'll wrap things up next year. It's the Coaches Show from the Sportsbook of Charleston in North Charleston, brought to you by Cutwater Spirits, all across the Citadel Sports Network. Back on the Coaches Show with the head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Ed Conroy, here for one final segment. Appreciate the time from a couple of members of the Bulldogs team, in Austin Ash and Elijah Morgan, two great examples of this Bulldogs program here this season, and a couple of guys that played well in New Orleans, especially last week. Appreciate them joining us here at the Coaches Show, where you can join us as well. Sportsbook of Charleston in North Charleston, brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. And if you come out and you join us in person, you'll have a chance to submit a question for the head coach of the Bulldogs, which we'll get to now, a couple of questions that have been submitted here this evening. And then we'll look ahead, before we go tonight, we'll look ahead to the games this week, big week for the Bulldogs. But Coach, a couple of questions have been sent your way. First off, David asks, what is your why?
That's a great question. I would say that you just saw two examples of it, or listened to two examples of it. If you would ask me my why, and I'm obviously starting with, faith and family, but if you said from a professional perspective and coaching, I'm so blessed. I get to coach young men like you just listened to with Elijah and Austin, and to help them on their journey at this point. I viewed my college years and the ability to play college basketball, as just something really special, and I love my passion, and I hope our staff, what we're known for is developing players and teaching the game of basketball, and then kind of helping them with develop off the court as well through the game of basketball. But that would be it. I just have a passion for working with teaching young men the game of basketball, and all the things that you can teach with it as far as becoming principal leaders, etc. So from a professional standpoint, I would say that's my why. And again, so much more comes back to you when you're, the people you just saw. I mean, Elijah and Austin, it doesn't get any better than that.
Absolutely. Jim asks, because, in recent years the Bulldogs have been known for their three-point shooting. Jim wants to know if you have a goal, a three-point percentage goal per game or per season.
We really don't. We don't pay attention to numbers like that. We pay more attention to efficiency, how we can be, best offensively. So our points per possession, which obviously we like to shoot the three, and that's why we have two guys like Austin and Elijah, shooting and having the freedom they do have to shoot the ball, because the three-point shot is if you take the right ones, it's worth more than two, and you have a better chance. Coach Les Robinson, who I worked for and was recruited by, really believed in how you could rebound the three-point shot from a better standpoint than the two. So we love the three-point shot, but we also like to get to that free throw line, and we like to get those drive and attack you at the rim plays as well. So hopefully you'll see us we try to stay away from those mid-range shots, but we certainly like the three. We don't want to be one-dimensional. We want to attack you both inside and out, put the pressure on you and try to get to the free throw line.
Jonathan asks, so far this season, which young player already has been most improved?
Wow, that's an interesting question as well, because I see them growing. They all seem to be growing every day. I think you saw in New Orleans. I thought Madison Durr made some really good strides. Maybe had a tough outing against Butler, but I thought in New Orleans he really started to come back again and find that groove. But I think all of our young guys are freshmen, and so I think they're going to be terrific players. And I think whether it's Kobe McAllister or A.J. Smith or Tony Carpio or other freshmen, they're going to be good basketball players for us.
A timely question from Derek. He asks, how do you stay motivated on long road trips?
Well, I think our guys, it is a long road trip, but it is early in the season, so hopefully we have it's a little bit fresh, and we try to vary it up and get them out of the hotel a little bit, like we said, about seeing some of the sights and spending some time outside of basketball together. But hopefully we're thinking long term, the season, and really involved and engaged in what the process is to become a very good basketball team. And when you're really engaged in that process and taking everything in from film and practice time and all those type of individual meetings with coaches, all that stuff, I think time kind of flies, because you're really thinking down the road of where you want to go as a team.
And I like this one from Bill, because we just heard from Austin earlier, who's from Iowa. You're from Iowa and shot it very well in your playing days. Who is the best shooter produced by the state of Iowa last 40 years?
Wow. I'm going to have to be careful how I answer this. I have a young man who I have to keep his confidence at a high level here the rest of the season. I don't want to destroy that right now, But there's been, Iowa basketball, there's been some terrific shooters, come through. And but Very pleased to see Austin Ash right now, and his eligibility will be up at the end of the year, and then we might have to just get in that gym one night in McAllister Fieldhouse and settle this once and for all. But right now, let's keep the young man's confidence up, and we'll say we're big Austin Ash fans.
Good answer. Yes, smart man with Austin in attendance with us tonight. By the way, next Coach's Show, tentative schedule for December 15th. So as we look ahead, those are the questions that we got tonight. Whenever you join us, you have a chance to submit a question. Appreciate the questions that come in for Coach. As we look ahead now, before we go here these last few moments, this is a big week. Charleston Southern, College of Charleston. Two big games on the schedule that would get basketball fans around here excited to come out and watch these teams play. We won't be back here for a Coach's Show for the next couple of weeks, so as we look towards these next couple of games, before I ask you about the actual matchups for this week, I know you've been asked this question a lot, but just how important was it to get these games back on the schedule, and then also to have them both in the same week like this, to have a fun little rivalry week here in Charleston like we're going to have this week?
Well, I think it works out great. We were able to get away last week, while there was nobody around campus, and come home this week in a week you don't want to travel because you're getting closer to exams. You want to be home, but yet these two great opportunities to stay home in Charleston and play these two schools. I think you can tell our fans are excited. People are talking about it. There's a buzz. I see the ticket window busy at McAllister Fieldhouse. I know our players are energized by it. So, this is what it's all about. It's, I want to get these things going. Who knows, win, loss, wherever they go. I just think they're really, really good for our program right now and creating a buzz and creating an excitement. And I think it's great for basketball in the area as well.
It's something that's been discussed these last couple of years because obviously these games haven't been happening for a couple of years, but not only getting them back in the schedule, a lot of people have talked about, hey, why not do some sort of tournament in one gym, bring in a fourth team from the state, and do a weekend tournament with, to be able to bring in all the basketball fans locally. If something like that were to come about, would you like that idea, or do you prefer keeping it in the, in the gyms, the home gyms?
I'm open for any idea. I really am. I think you have to continue to evolve, be creative, change it up. I think the one consistent that I want to see happen is that we play. But other than that, we're a part of it. But other than that, I think you have to listen to what fans want, what players want. I know, that was a big part of it for me. I was not going to, wait until, say, we had 3 or 4 years of recruiting before we got the program started. I think that's unfair to guys like Elijah and Austin, the guys that we bring in this year, because I know as a player, I really, really enjoyed these games. I mean, it's not going to be an easy challenge going over to Charleston Southern on Wednesday and then coming back on Saturday at home against the college. But I know as a player, you only have so many chances to get out there and play and represent, and these games fired me up. I love the rivalry part of it. I love the excitement, and I want to give them every opportunity to do that. Like I said, our schedule is it's not for the faint of heart. Like, we are playing, as tough a schedule as there's been in Citadel basketball history. But as I tell our guys all the time, we're not trying to go around it. We're not trying to figure out a sneaky way to the top. We want to go right through it. And so put whatever obstacles you want or challenges you want our way, and that's what we plan to go through.
We've got about 90 seconds left, so we'll leave it on this. These two games this week, from a basketball perspective, what will it take for you guys to have a successful week this week?
Well, I think we're going to have to really, tighten up in certain areas and continue on our growth. I think we're really growing where we're becoming more efficient on the offensive end and tougher to turn over, tougher to, we're a little more sound as far as making fewer and fewer mistakes. We're an outstanding free throw shooting team. If we can find a way to get to the free throw line a little more often, that'll really benefit us. And then continue to get better and better at defending and limiting people to one shot. That's been an Achilles heel of ours so far, is just the rebounding part of it. But I think our guys are realizing what you have to do at this level to get that done. If we can rebound better, find a way to get to that free throw line more, then I think these two games can come right down to the wire and be anybody's ballgame.
It should be a lot of fun. The Citadel at Charleston Southern Wednesday night, and then come out and join us at the McAllister Fieldhouse Saturday, 1 p.m. tip. The Citadel and the College of Charleston. Get your tickets while you can and come out and join us this Saturday, 1 p.m. That game back on the schedule, and it should be a lot of fun at the McAllister Fieldhouse. Coach, appreciate the time, and best of luck to you guys this week.
Thank you. Go Dogs.
Absolutely. That's Coach Ed Conroy joining us tonight. As always, appreciate Austin Ash and Elijah Morgan joining us as well. The next Coach's Show scheduled for December 15th here out in North Charleston. In the meantime, as mentioned, come out and see the Bulldogs this week. Wednesday at Charleston Southern, Saturday against the College of Charleston. 1 p.m. tip at the McAllister Fieldhouse. Come out and see us Saturday. If not, all the games can be heard right here, however you've been listening tonight. From the Sportsbook of Charleston in North Charleston, it's been the Coach's Show here all across the Citadel Sports